by Senator Ron Wyden. Thanks for being here, Senator. Immediately, your reaction to the release of this memo, and more importantly, this was done by GOP House members. What's the reaction I'm curious about from GOP Senate members, some of your colleagues?
It's already very clear that Republican senators do not want to own what went on in the House of Representatives. And let me put this in the context of Oregon. I just had a town meeting already in Columbia County High School, and I've one at David Douglas tonight at 6:30 for viewers. We have in Oregon a basic sense of fairness. At every one of these meetings, whether it's in a county, the president won by 20 or Hillary Clinton won by 20, everybody treats each other with respect. The way the House handled this flunks the fairness test. The idea that they wouldn't even allow the Democrats to put out their assessment of what went on, that's just not the Oregon way. It's basic fairness. Let both sides have a chance to state their views. I have not, in all my years on the Intelligence Committee, seen a situation where both sides were not allowed to give their views.
Will the Democrats be able to release their memo?
Well, we'll see. I mean, obviously, there's now talk because the House Republicans know that it doesn't pass the fairness test about doing it sometime down the road. But the fact is now, when the public is really engaged, we didn't see both sides of this issue. And by the way, this newfound interest in transparency by Devin Nunes is really a lot to swallow. He was just the architect of a reauthorization of the Foreign Intelligence Surveillance Act, which just increased the prospect of warrantless surveillance of law-abiding Americans. I hope, given his new interest in transparency that we've heard about here in the last few days, he'll go back and revisit that law and talk about protecting law-abiding Americans.
Okay, you were just here a few months ago, and Jennifer and I always remember what you said.
What was it, just before Christmas or so you're here?
3 words.
You said, follow the money. And just new today also, you have requested documents looking into whether a Russian central banker funneled money to the NRA during the presidential campaign.
One of the touchstones in this follow the money issue is how shell companies and money laundering takes place. Now, what I have done, because I've seen these news reports, I mean, this is not classified material. These are news reports that raise serious questions about whether Russians have used shell companies to meddle in our elections. So I wrote Steve Mnuchin, the Treasury Secretary. I wrote the NRA, and what I want to do is get to the bottom of it.
Something else. There was talk this morning when President Trump was active, is he's going to fire Deputy Attorney General Rod Rosenstein. He said, well, you'll see. Wait for something. What if he does fire Rosenstein? What will be the effect in Washington, D.C.?
My sense is that that will escalate the conflict with the FBI, with the Justice Department. And remember, what this is about is attacking the integrity of these individuals. I have disagreed plenty with the FBI director, Christopher Wray, and by the way, he is a Trump appointee as well, about encryption. Strong encryption is how we protect our data. It's important for our security. It's important for our liberty. So I've disagreed with Mr. Wray on all kinds of policy issues. But I think if the president just goes in there and says, we're going to fire a big array of people, that will accelerate the tensions between law enforcement professionals and the White House. That's not a battle the president's going to win.
A constitutional crisis, is that what it will lead to?
My sense is what this has always been about is protecting the president and undermining the Mueller investigation. If there are efforts to undermine the Mueller investigation, my view is there'll be a constitutional crisis.
Okay, Senator Ron Wyden, always a pleasure to see you.
Thanks for having me.
Thanks so much for being here.
Thank you.